Alright everyone, it is day 2 and a still hyper-caffeinated and slightly slipped Styx wanted to weigh in on the chaos and insanity that we've seen unfold over the last few hours. My body wouldn't let me sleep any longer. Today is going to be a day of rest, but I figured it was important to make at least one recap video here for people who are still itching for more as far as the midterms go. Here are some major takeaways about it, and let me first say, yes, I was wrong with regards to the GOP's pickups. I acknowledge that. However, if you look at the individual races, I think I only missed a couple of them. I correctly predicted that Hassan would hold on to her seat, Hochul, that Mastriano would lose. I was wrong in Wisconsin, which isn't the biggest surprise on the table. And, of course, I never gave a true prediction myself in Pennsylvania with Oz v. Fetterman. I just literally flipped a coin for that because it was always likely that at the very least there would be some honking going on there. Remember that Pennsylvania still has several open-ended lawsuits going on with regards to mail-in ballots. As far as Arizona, that's probably the big news of the night, or should be. Nobody has a fucking clue. Now, they're still stuck at 55% counted right now. Hobbs supposedly out against Lake by about double digits. That won't be the final number, but that's what it is. You had something approaching 25% of ballot tabulators in Maricopa County were not working. You had multiple polling sites that were effectively shuttered. Nothing was working. Whether or not it has anything to do with honk honk, at the very least, there's a massive inefficiency issue there, total incompetence in their election system, and Arizona desperately needs to be investigated for its election practices. Clearly, what they're doing ain't fucking working. Regardless, if Kari Lake comes out on top in the end, it doesn't matter. Whoever the fuck is controlling the elections, right now, unfortunately, it happens to be one of the candidates. By the way, that's normally called machine politics. If it were in any other country that weren't friendly with the United States, we'd point to it as evidence of corruption and other things that we can't mention on a YouTube video. But we would say it was corrupt. We would say that it's like a banana republic. If it was an ally, we'd let it slide. Zelensky engages in it, it's okay. If Putin does it, though, he's, the devil. He hates democracy. Something must be done about Arizona, especially Maricopa County. There is a problem there. I would tell Democrats, again, regardless of the results, your votes can be fucked with too. There is a problem there. There is apparently no transparency in the goddamn state. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. The same thing is true of several other states. Number 2 takeoff. I was correct on my 3 main gubernatorial predictions. In fact, I was right with regards to the margin as far as DeSantis goes. He won not just by double digits, but by almost double the polling aggregate. That's another main, and then Abbott and Kemp, of course, were reelected. Stacey Abrams actually conceding, which is, that's the first for her. Here's what I think. If I look at Florida, what is the difference between DeSantis and Rubio, who's not a MAGA candidate, he doesn't have that much support, they both won by roughly double the amount they were expected to win by in voting. Why is it that pollsters and pundits got it so consistently wrong, where you're underestimating GOP support by literally a double-digit margin in Florida and in a few other states, whereas you're vastly underestimating Democratic turnout in certain others? I don't know what the fuck is happening actually with the results. There's almost no way that I can reconcile what I'm seeing with any interpretation of polling other than we're fracturing into states and zones that have fair elections and those that are more fortified. There's not really any other way I can properly interpret that. Florida, of course, locked down its election system. In Georgia, meanwhile, I find it funny that some people are expressing concern, and I don't actually have it. I'll explain why. Because Kemp, of course, was reelected in Georgia, +8, whereas Herschel Walker, who I think my prediction will come out correctly. There will be a runoff there forced by the Libertarian candidate getting about 2 points. Neither of the others get 50%. Runoff happens, and then Herschel Walker, I do believe, will carry the runoff because I have a feeling that those Libertarians are going to break for the Republicans in the end. They're people who were hoping that it would not go to runoff and they'd be absolved of any responsibility, basically. Well, that's what I think will happen. I would like to explain that actually that comports very closely to the polling aggregate. That has Kemp riding almost exactly at the level he was polling at, and Walker too. It was a 50-50 game between Walker and Warnock. Of course, Warnock could have run away with it if the election had been held a month prior, so Walker is outperforming, but he's performing almost exactly where the polls put him. Really, you have a spoiler third-party candidate. That, by the way, that's another exciting take. It's not just in New Hampshire where the Libertarians abandoning Bolduc and pissing on him probably prevented him from taking that Senate seat in New Hampshire. And I said that if he lost and it was a squeaker, and it is relatively close, that would be why. It's also Georgia, forcing a runoff election. Libertarian third-party spoiler candidates. It's quite something to see. In the end, though, I think that'll be a GOP pickup in the Georgia Senate. That is a prediction. Also, I'd like to talk about New York, Hochul versus Zeldin. We do see, as I suspected and predicted, Hochul wins, but it's not by a double-digit margin. She's winning by about 5 points in a state that tilts massively and lopsidedly blue. This shows Lee Zeldin and potentially the DeSantis effect, by the way, did work. His strength as a candidate, her relative weakness as a candidate. What kind of mandate do you have if you're in a state that's so hyper-partisan you can't win by double digits? And then we have Lauren Boebert, who's in Colorado 3, I think it was. Or is it Colorado 1? I can't remember which district. It's Colorado, whatever. She is currently behind, actually, despite her incumbency. She's made up a lot of that difference. I think she still has the potential to win there, but it's going to be close. And this shows, I think, more than anything, the Democrats' near single-minded focus on that particular race. They put a lot of money, a lot of effort into Boebert. You'll remember the fake scandal claiming she had been a prostitute and screwed Ted Cruz. They got really nasty on this one. If it would have been a Democrat being talked about, it would have been conceived of as sexist. But, you know, Boebert happens to be MAGA, so it's okay. Otherwise, most of the things that we saw comported roughly to what I expected, other than the margin. I correctly predicted, I think, of the races that have been called, I think 15 or 16 of those. All three of the main gubernatorial slots. These were, again, DeSantis, Abbott, and Kemp. A couple months ago, the Democrats swore up and down they were going to take all of these. I still have a whole ream of bad takes of people predicting Beto at the last minute would somehow become the governor of Texas. Oh boy, is that funny. Clearly didn't happen. Correct on those. Looks like might be correct on the gubernatorial gap, by the way, possibly the Senate. The House, though, the Republicans are coming in far short of expectations. In the end, I think they do take the House. Now it's a matter of, do they get to a 10-seat advantage, or do they somehow fall shy of that? I think they'll have more of an advantage than the Dems currently have, and the problem for the Democrats is this. If they had lost really big, and their leadership got purged because people said enough is enough, clearly what we're doing isn't working, they would then reformulate as a party. They would be able to reestablish a new broad tent sort of system, decide are we going to be a left-wing party, or are we going to reabsorb like the Union independent vote? What are we going to do with this? They're not going to be compelled to do that anymore, which means that the same old neo-lib hangers-ons that are approaching Strom Thurmond age ranges are still going to be in control of the party. Nancy Pelosi probably loses her gavel. She gets fucked in the ass. The rest of the leadership, Schumer will still be the Senate majority leader or minority leader, depending on what happens in Georgia especially. Their DCCC attaches will still be in power. The money will still keep being funneled and embezzled by neoliberals, and nothing will change. That's not a good place to be when the Republicans are becoming more malleable as a party. Nonetheless, the legacy media will run with the great defeat of MAGA, how MAGA dragged the party down, and, shit like that, even though a significant number of those victors or near victors happen to be MAGA. That is what they will go with. Well, Donald Trump caused this to happen. By the way, I predicted that as well. So preemptive re-prediction. They will blame Donald Trump and ream the shit out of him because they're afraid that in a week he's going to run for the presidency. They're trying to spark a civil war within the Republican Party. Well, it's not Trump's fault. In some cases, it's, at the very least, election inefficiency that's going on. In other cases, there are other dubious things that have occurred in some of these state and local elections. Nonetheless, though, the GOP can't really claim a major victory. They can claim a minor victory. They're flipping House seats. They'll probably gain the majority there. A significant proportion of the newcomer candidates actually did very well, including some that won. Of course, Vance is in there now. He won, among others. Very interesting, though. Again, there's not a whole lot of ways you can look at what happened in Florida or Texas, places like that, versus what happened in Wisconsin or Pennsylvania. And really, there's almost no way to interpret it because the same pollsters are getting it wrong in both directions during the same election cycle, sometimes with a gap of 15 fucking goddamn points. Nobody was excited. There were Democrats that were expecting a blue tsunami. That's obviously didn't happen. There were Republicans that were expecting a red wave. That didn't really happen. And then there were people that are like, fuck it. I don't think anyone quite expected this particular differential. Although I think that everyone expected that there would be some shenanigans in Maricopa County. This has become now a national tradition. Somehow the 2022 midterms are more messy and insane than the 2020 election. Hell, crazier than the 2016 election based on what I'm seeing now. Very interesting times. That's about all. Peace out.